on February 8th features Greg Zellick's talent and selections, demonstrating the organ's musical range. Tickets at jacksymphony.org. The North Florida TPO is committed to shaping our transportation future. We're focused on planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, connected community. Learn more at northfloridatpo.com. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Up next, national and local news from NPR and the WJCT News team.
Good morning, I'm Ann Schindler. On today's First Coast Connect, the 125-year-old Black National Anthem celebrates its birthday with a week of events paying tribute to Jacksonville native James Weldon Johnson. Then, a historic Black community sees a resurgence. We ask the new leader of an Eastside revitalization group how she plans to capture the momentum. And facilitating tough discussions about race. We talk to 4 contributors about the new anthology, Where Colors Meet, a Tapestry of Black and White. Join the conversation. Give us a call at 904-549-2937. Email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org or tag us on social. It's all ahead this hour after the day's news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Tech billionaire Elon Musk says his Department of Government Efficiency is in the process of shutting down the U.S. Agency for International Development. NPR's Luke Garrett reports that agency staffers in Washington, D.C. have been told to stay home today.
During a public conversation with Senators Joni Ernst of Iowa and Mike Lee of Utah on his social media platform X, Musk says he's closing down USAID.
And USAID is a bowl of worms. Mm-hmm. There is no apple. And when there is no apple, you've just got to basically get rid of the whole thing.
Musk says President Trump backs the effort.
Actually checked with him a few times, said, are you sure? I'm like, yes. So we're shutting it down.
USAID was first established in 1961 when Congress passed the Foreign Assistance Act. In 2023, it managed more than $40 billion in federal spending on humanitarian development and assistance in more than 100 countries. The State Department has yet to comment. Luke Garrett, NPR News, Washington.
China, Canada, and Mexico are pledging to retaliate after President Trump announced plans to impose sweeping tariffs on those countries. NPR's Joe Hernandez reports most Canadian and Mexican imports will see a 25% tax, while goods from China will be charged at a 10% rate.
Canada says it will place a 25% tariff of its own on more than $150 billion worth of U.S. imports. On Saturday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau urged the U.S. to abandon its plan to impose tariffs on its northern neighbor, but he said that if the U.S. plan took effect, Canada would move forward with its tariffs and leave other options on the table, too. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Saturday that she didn't want a confrontation with the U.S., but vowed to respond to the Trump administration plan with tariffs and other measures. Statements from China's Foreign Ministry and Commerce Ministry denounced the U.S. tariffs and said the country would take unspecified, quote, corresponding countermeasures in response. Joe Hernandez, NPR News.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is warning Panama that it must take immediate action on curbing Chinese influence over the Panama Canal region, or the United States will get involved. NPR's Ari Shapiro reports Rubio issued that ultimatum during his first overseas trip as the nation's top diplomat.
Rubio delivered the message that President Trump has made a preliminary determination that China has too much influence over the canal. He says that violates international treaties. Quick fact check on Trump's claims of Chinese influence. While a company based in Hong Kong does operate ports at either end of the canal, Panama runs the canal itself, not China.
NPR's Ari Shapiro reporting. This is NPR News.
You're listening to WJCT News, 89.9 in Jacksonville. Good morning, I'm Stephen Ponson. It's 9:04. Jacksonville residents may see a gradual increase in their trash collection fee if City Council member Matt Carlucci's proposal is adopted. The current monthly fee of $12.65, which has remained the same since 2010, does not cover the service cost, forcing the city to use general funds to bridge the gap. News partners at the Jacksonville Daily Record report Carlucci's plan, which was developed after discussions with council members, the Citizen Planning Advisory Committee, and business groups, includes two possible phase-in options: increasing the fee to $20 this year, then $31 next year, or raising it to $20 this year, then gradually reaching $31 by 2027. Additionally, Carlucci proposes exemptions for residents whose household income is 150% of the federal poverty level or less. David Hogg, a survivor of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting and gun control activist, has been named the new vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried congratulated him yesterday, calling his journey from Parkland survivor to national gun violence prevention advocate remarkable. She also noted that the 24-year-old Hogg is the first member of Gen Z to serve as vice chair of the DNC. When he announced his bid for vice chair, he said he wanted to focus on winning back young voters who have drifted from the Democratic Party. Highs this afternoon in the lower 70s in Jacksonville.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts. And the Public Welfare Foundation, committed to advancing transformative youth and criminal justice reforms.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health and North Florida TPO.
Good morning. I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, we celebrate the start of Black History Month through the lens of commercial, cultural, and conversational enterprises. Then, from an effort to boost businesses on historic Florida Avenue to a celebration of the 125th anniversary of the Black National Anthem. But first, we're hearing there a version of Lift Every Voice and Sing, also known as the Black National Anthem. Here to tell us about a week-long tribute to the Jacksonville natives who wrote it, I'm joined by Sharon Kohn, festival organizer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hazel Gillis, president of the James Weldon Johnson branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Good morning, Hazel.
Good morning.
And Deborah McDuffie, director of the 500-voice children's choir that will be performing this song for the festival. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Deborah, you're recreating the first performance of this song. Lift Every Voice and Sing was performed publicly for the first time at the segregated Stanton School in 1900.
Correct.
And so you're going to be putting together 500 school children to do this a similar performance. How is it, first of all, conducting 500 school children?
Well, when I was choral director at Paxson School for Advanced Studies, believe it or not, I had a chorus of 103. So 500 is a lot more than 103, so I don't know what I've gotten myself into, quite honestly. But it should be very, very exciting.
It's my understanding that this song was first performed to celebrate President Abraham Lincoln's birthday?
It was originally written for Abraham Lincoln's birthday, yes.
Okay. And so what is it that the students knew, if anything, about this song when you first started working with them?
Not too much. A lot of our history is not being taught anymore. A lot of history isn't being taught anymore. So especially in working with the rich voices who are going to join the children for this conversation, it's an opportunity to teach and to instill history, not just Black history, but history, into our young people. So it was really exciting to tell the story and have them respond enthusiastically to this whole event.
And Hazel, this is an important piece of Jacksonville's history. James Weldon Johnson and his brother, Rosamond Johnson, who composed the music. Tell us a little bit about who these brothers were and why they're important in the scope of Jacksonville's past.
They are very important. James Weldon Johnson wrote the lyrics to Lift Every Voice and Sing, and his brother, John Rosamond Johnson, put it to music. So it is very important that this is part of Jacksonville's history. This is not only Jacksonville's history, but this is world history that we've learned that the brothers here that lived here in Jacksonville.
And so they wrote this song together. They were both very committed to the arts and culture in terms of advancing Black life and Black civil rights. Both of them were very prominent in terms of their own communities, but also in leading the effort to civil rights. James Weldon Johnson went on to become the first leader of the NAACP.
That is correct.
Yeah, and so how much of that history do you think is widely known in these parts?
So what we're trying to do is to make sure everyone knows about the history of James Weldon Johnson and John Rosamond Johnson, and also Black history. And since you asked that question, we are also, the James Weldon Johnson branch of ASALA, we have a freedom school where we teach Black history on Saturdays at Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church, 11:30 a.m. every Saturday, so that we can make sure that the community knows about Black history. So that's what we're doing.
How did you first learn about James Weldon Johnson and his brother, John Rosamond Johnson?
Well, I grew up in North Carolina. And in North Carolina, in the segregated school, which was grades 1 through 12, we sang Lift Every Voice and Sing every morning for devotion. So before I came to Jacksonville, I knew about Lift Every Voice and Sing. We sang Lift Every Voice and Sing. So it's no mystery. I'm just glad to be here in the city where they were born.
Yeah. Sharon Kohn, this is a festival that you're heading up. Explain to us, first of all, why it is that the 125th anniversary is something that needs to be celebrated.
Well, you got to realize during the period when Lift Every Voice and Sing was written by James Weldon Johnson, it first started off when he was invited to do a speech in celebration of Abraham Lincoln's birthday. But you got to realize the period, right, during the Reconstruction, going into the Jim Crow, when Florida was leading the lynching people at about 79,000, which was the highest in all the Southern. Georgia was second. So when James Weldon Johnson, looking at what was happening, instead of writing a speech, his first line was Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is a call for action. And because of his experience, he got tears in his eyes when he thought about what he had seen, what he had witnessed. So he started the call for action, Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is the only hymn in the United States that really identifies a culture of history. And even from then, he wanted to deal with the challenges that African Americans, it was a dark period. And even in that dark period, he gave hope and life to the situation so that people would not give up.
His lyrics, some of the lyrics were very much evocative of the suffering of people, during slave times, but also during very difficult periods in that Reconstruction period. I mean, his lyrics in that second verse are very dark.
But you have to remember what happened so that if you don't talk about it and you don't give people hope, that song was faith. It was hope. Don't you give up. And that's what I love about it. But the most important thing about that song, when he wrote the song, when the kids performed this song, he did not know it was going to become a national song. Because you got to realize he was almost murdered right here in Jacksonville. When the Great Fire that happened, He was over in the park at Riverside, and he had accepted an interview with a reporter from New York. She was light-skinned, and the militias came along, and they thought she was white, and they was going to lynch him. And someone recognized him, and they took him in. And James, that really frightened him at that time, and that's why James, that caused him to leave Jacksonville. But no other citizen, according to the scholars, have achieved as much as James Weldon Johnson did in Jacksonville in the state of Florida.
So this was actually proclaimed the Negro National Anthem by the NAACP in 1919, and that was more than a decade before the Star-Spangled Banner was adopted as the national anthem under President Hoover. I'm curious, Deborah, what place does it have for you, and how does your concern about this song or your feelings about this song, how do you convey that to your students, to these children?
Well, this song is very important to me, especially because of the lyrics that you just mentioned. They're very stony, the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. That's being beat with a whip, you know. And so what I did back in, and with the civil rights movement in the 60s, the song regained prominence along with We Shall Overcome. They became the two songs of the civil rights movement. So what I did, because the song was so dear to me and I wanted younger generations who didn't even know about a Black National Anthem, it was called the Negro National Anthem at that time, to have an awareness and an understanding and to be able to study the words, and that's part of not just our history, but it's part of history. And I was in music production at the time, and I went to one of my clients, who I will not name, and I said, for Black History Month, I would like to do an updated version or a current version, contemporary version of Lift Every Voice and Sing. And unbelievably, they agreed and they footed the whole bill. And I produced a contemporary gospel version, so it had hope. Right now, the song is kind of like a dirge. Lift every voice, you know, it's drags. But this was, it expressed the hope that Ms. Kohn just talked about. It was uplifting. It's like, we can do this. In other words, we shall overcome. And I enlisted Al Green, Denise Williams, Roberta Flack, Melba Moore, and Patty Austin to sing on this thing. And it became, and I almost said the client's name, and the client distributed free of charge to all the schools in the country. So this was my way of getting it out there. And now that I'm at the Ritz, when the Ritz reopened, we had the Lift Every Voice and Sing animatronic with the voice of Ossie Davis as James Weldon Johnson telling the story. So that was another project that I was able to be involved in heavily, that got the word about this wonderful composition out to the public, not just Jacksonville, but to the world.
And we should say, I mean, we're kind of not making a big deal of it, but you're a pretty big deal in the music production world. You've worked with some of the biggest names in music.
Right.
You know, you named a few, but you've also worked alongside the Jacksons. You've, had a number of interactions with and made music with some of the stars of the last 30 years.
So I took advantage of those relationships to do this rendition. So
if you're just joining us, we're talking about the 125th anniversary of Lift Every Voice and Sing, written by Jacksonville native James Weldon Johnson. There's a festival all this next week celebrating it. And if you'd like to join our conversation, you can give us a call at 904-549-2937. You can also email First Coast Connect, WJCT.org, or you can reach out on social media. We've got a call from Richard on the north side. Good morning, Richard. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Ann, Sharon, Hazel. I actually met Hazel standing in line at the bank and connected back to Sharon. Now, I've been working with and watching Sharon's work in the community for years. Thank you guys for this conversation. I want to say, number one, you said earlier that there was a part of the song that was dark. It wasn't so much that the song was dark. It was that the times were dark, and that song was to be the light in that darkness, and the children singing it. That's exactly what it became. But I would say to the listeners to listen to a podcast or a show that came on NPR called Radio Lab. They did this wonderful series called The Vanishing of Harry Pace. You guys have it on your website, I think. But there's one particular episode that tells a wonderful story that if it were not for the Great Fire, we would not know that the Lift Every Voice and Sing as a Black National Anthem. Because of the Great Fire, those 500 children and their families scattered all over the United States. And the children took the song with them. And that's why it was sung in so many different communities, because literally that song migrated across the nation, and it became talk of a Black national anthem even before the United States had a national anthem. And in response, a white national anthem was written using the very racist lyrics of Francis Scott Key as a reaction to the Lift Every Voice and Sing movement, which was amazing that song not only inspired Black folk, but it literally inspired our nation to come up with its own national anthem. I think this Lift Every Voice was written in 1901. We didn't get a national anthem until like 1938.
I just wanted to say it was written in 1899 and was performed in 1900.
But to Richard's point, it is true that James Weldon Johnson had no idea of the reach this song would have. He said that, quote, shortly after the performance, my brother and I moved away from Jacksonville to New York, and the song passed out of our minds. But the school children of Jacksonville kept singing it, and they went off to other schools and they sang it. They became teachers and taught it to other children. And within 20 years, it was being sung over the South and in some other parts of the country. He said, the lines of this song repay me in an elation, almost exquisite anguish whenever I hear them sung by Negro children. It is a powerful song. Hazel, when you are teaching people about James Weldon Johnson through the seminars that you do on Black history and other places, is a festival like this an opportunity to connect with a kind of different audience about this song and about the author of it?
This is an excellent opportunity for us to connect with the entire community. So we're excited that we have this festival, and we were glad to be partners with the Friends of Brentwood Library.
Yeah. Sharon, so this is a call to action, as you said, and you've in the past interpreted this not just as a call to action for that time, but for our time.
It is very needed now because this song is really a community building project. What it's going to do is going to help each of us understand our cultures and our differences, but also understand what binds and connect us together. We all have different backgrounds, and it brings respect and it brings honor when we can talk about race relations. It's a touchy subject, but it needs to be talked about, because if you don't have the discussion, you cannot build a relationship. And this is why we have awesome facilitators coming in to talk about. We have 904 going to talk about the race card. We have the NAACP is going to be doing a workshop on how race affects education. We're going to be talking about the 100 years of voter suppression in the state of Florida, the Crooked Line. We're going to be talking about the 100 years of Black supporters, which I just talked about. We're also going to be talking about the discussion on Harriet T. They were civil rights activists.
Oh, murdered in Mims.
Mims, Florida. Mm-hmm. They're coming in to do the whole presentation. We're going to have Norman Studio going to be talking about The Flying Ace, which was the first Black silent movie that Mr. Norman did right here in Jacksonville. And that was inspired by Bessie Coleman. So we got a lot of things our children are going to learn from. We have the judges going to be talking about the film that the children, through Friends of Brentwood Library, we taught them how to handle interviews. We taught them how to do research on African American history. And they had to do their research. But as a result, we were able to produce the Jacksonville Then and Now film as a partnership with the Smithsonian Institute when we did A Place for Old People. And that was done with middle and high school kids right here in Jacksonville. And they did it in 1 month's time. 1 month's time. So
you have also, though, connected the Lift Every Voice theme to voting and the importance of voting.
Yes, because James Weldon Johnson, being a civil rights activist, helping develop the NAACP chapters, it was difficult. People lost their lives for trying to vote. It was difficult. And so voting right now is crucial. If we don't use the power and authority that we have over situations that we can do something about, then it's like a sad thing when you don't vote. When people died to stand in a line to vote, people were really killed and lynched. So to take it for granted, not only that, reading. It was against the law for a slave to learn how to read, to pick up a book. So this is why our children need to know the sacrifices that were made. I remember a couple of years ago when they opened up the African American History Museum, Washington, D.C., we took about 50 there. And those little kids went through the slave tour. They came out crying. And they said, Lord, I thank you that I was not born during that period. And they said, Miss Kohn, you won't have no more problems with us picking up a book and read. This is why our children need to know their history.
I want to take a call from Dave in Avondale. Good morning, Dave. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm a big fan of mass choir events, when you go here in the soccer stadiums all singing together. And my recommendation is that you have at least two renditions of a song sung for the public, one at the event. One is just the kids, and the second is a sing-along. And when everybody can participate, and if you want to get fancy, you can have publicized a download of the lyrics. And I'm sure one of the video conference production companies would be glad to donate the use of a big screen that would be beside the singers with the lyrics, so the audience can sing along appropriately. And I think a sing-along is a very powerful way of getting the whole audience involved, and it becomes much more powerful.
Yeah. So, when are you going to start working?
What's that? I mean, is there this obviously is a call, as Sharon said, lift every voice. The children will be singing it. Is there going to be an opportunity for people to join in?
Let me tell you, there will be opportunities every day for people to join in. When we kick off the celebration, the 12th at 10 o'clock, we're going to start off with Lift Every Voice and Sing. Every event that we have is going to be Lift Every Voice and Sing. When we go into the James Weldon Johnson Park and celebrate in both parks, Lift Every Voice and Sing. The kids will be, everybody will be singing in the park. And then the World Day of Celebration at Bethel Baptist Church. Everybody's invited. They're going to be singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. See, we are inclusive. We are not exclusive when we plan something, because what we do is to join and connect us together, to bind us together, okay? So you are welcome. I don't know your name, but please come, and I look forward to seeing you. You come up and ask for Miss Kohn so I can meet you, because I want to hear you sing Lift Every Voice and Sing with us.
And you can find the lyrics online. They are very moving to read and beautiful. The event, the week of events, starts on February 12th, and it runs through that whole next week. There's plenty of information to be found at jwjlifteveryvoice.com. I want to close with a performance of the full song, Lift Every Voice and Sing, performed by Jada Holliday. courtesy of Baylor University. Sharon Kohn, Hazel Gillis, Deborah McDuffie, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having us.
And we'll
It's
be
a
back after
pleasure.
this.
Thank you.
Welcome back. A historic Black community sees a resurgence with an infusion of city money and new business. Here to discuss a new focus on the historic corridor once known as Florida Avenue is Nigelle Kohn, Executive Director of Florida Avenue Main Street Incorporated. Good morning, Nigelle. We're also joined by Avery McKnight, the group's board chairman. Good morning, Avery.
Good morning.
So this neighborhood, Nigelle, just describe to us a little bit for people who don't know out east or the east side, kind of what the boundaries are and what has traditionally defined it as a neighborhood.
So the boundaries of the neighborhood, let me start with the Main Street district specifically, and I'm going to let Avery talk about the boundaries of the neighborhood in general. So the boundaries of the Main Street are A. Philip Randolph from Albert Street, which is right along the ramp to the Matthews Bridge, to First Street, and then down Union Street towards the Union Terminal, which is also being redeveloped and renovated as well.
That's that giant warehouse.
The
that
giant
has
warehouse.
been repainted and looking very spiffy these days.
Exactly, and they're actually getting ready to open soon as well. The boundaries of the neighborhood, and Avery, correct me if I'm wrong, the south side is the Matthews Bridge or Albert Street. all the way out to 21st.
Are you speaking the historic district?
The
Just
full neighborhood.
The full neighborhood. Yeah. So the full neighborhood goes, I think, it's Wigmore is the bike end of it. We consider that out 21st. That's
Okay.
what we call it.
And then
I do think we
MLK
have a map that we can show on our live stream too as we're discussing it. So, but continue.
And then MLK Highway or 20th Street Expressway, all the way over to Ionia.
And this is a neighborhood, it's a historic neighborhood. There was a time when the street that is now known as A. Philip Randolph Boulevard was known as Florida Avenue, and it really kind of ran from the St. Johns River north into that neighborhood. That was sort of cut off over the years by the
Correct.
sports complex and these various highway crossings. But it has retained, Avery, a very specific identity. So for people who aren't from the East Side, describe what it's like. Describe what that existing business corridor is still like.
I remember that business corridor back in the late 80s. It was bustling. It was a lot of businesses. It wasn't sparse like it is now. It was a lot of buildings, and everything was occupied. Everything. It was like a black mecca. It was very nice. And so now we still have about 10 businesses up there that are black owned, and they either own the buildings where the business is situated, or it's black owned. The buildings are black owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Nigelle, you are recently, I think in December, you were named the executive director of Florida Avenue Main Street Incorporated. There are a number of organizations in this historic neighborhood that have been active in recent years,
Correct.
including the historic Eastside Community Development Corporation, Lift Jacks. So why is Florida Avenue Main Street Incorporated also needed? And how is it going to work with or perhaps differently than those other groups?
So the reason that they decided to create Florida Avenue Main Street was to have an organization that was 100% focused on reactivating the corridor. So it grew out of the Eastside Legacy Business Council, and the Business Council was responsible and working with all the businesses on the East Side. But A. Philip Randolph, the Ave, is the gateway, really, to the corridor. And so between Historic Eastside CDC, between Lift Jacks, between the Eastside Legacy Business Council, as well as others, they felt that there needed to be a concentrated effort to redevelop and reactivate the business corridor because of its prominence as the gateway really into the community. There's a lot of synergy that's happening with the stadium and the stadium project and all of the development that's happening in the sports and entertainment district. There is homeownership and housing, affordable housing being developed throughout the community, but there really wasn't a focused effort per se on revitalizing and redeveloping the business corridor. And so they felt that there needed to be that one organization that could work with the businesses, the property owners, to make sure that the attention that needed to be happen was happening to rebuild, reactivate, revitalize, and stabilize the businesses that were there to prepare for the growth that's happening in the sports and entertainment district, as well as the growth that's happening throughout the neighborhood itself.
And so what is your charge taking over this group? What is it that you believe that the Avenue needs to happen? And what are you watching out for?
So what needs to happen is a lot of community engagement, but that happens in light of or in partnership with rebuilding the avenue, new businesses, new buildings, and with the new buildings, new businesses coming to the area. Also events or activities that bring people to the community that can then visit those businesses and help them become financially stable as well. But also having opportunities for folks that visit the sports and entertainment district, having them have a place to come, eat, shop, work, play, and live, but doing that with respect for the neighborhood that is there. So we have generations of families that have lived on the East Side that call Out East home, and A. Philip Randolph is surrounded by a neighborhood. And so we want to make sure that we're respectful of the neighborhood that is there as well, and the residents, and have something for the residents that they want to live, eat, work, and shop at as well.
Avery, you're a business owner in the district there. Are you also from the East Side?
Yes, ma'am. Fourth generation East Sider.
Okay. What is it that you are looking for with this revitalization effort? And what concerns, if any, do you have?
So currently I'm not a resident, but I lived on the East Side up until I was about 19 years old, from birth to 19. And I left and came back in, I think I was 21. And so I moved again, but like my passion is the East Side, but I'm also a business owner and currently. So the businesses on the corridor was one of my concerns, but businesses on the East Side as a whole. So when we had the East Side Legacy Business Council, our concentration was the entire East Side, as Nigelle mentioned. But now with the Main Street organization, it's focused on a corridor. And so we do have a business on the corridor as well. And so we've seen a lot of growth recently on the corridor that we haven't seen, I think, since the decline after like the late 80s. So it's very promising, and I'm excited. But Main Street is very instrumental in the growth and progress and revitalization of the community.
I mean, Main Street is about to be home to a major new development, which is a soccer stadium. Right. It's going to be right there at the corner of Albert Street and A. Philip Randolph, and it is going to be a significant project, and it is going to really change the look of the entrance into that street, that corridor. Is the community generally excited about that project? Are there concerns about how it might change the nature of it or impact the streetscape in a way that maybe isn't consistent with the existing, look of it?
Correct. That project will change the way that APR looks, especially where it is, as, like I said, the gateway of the community. I think when it was initially announced, there were concerns in the neighborhood about what this would do to the community, between traffic, between having a stadium as the gateway to the neighborhood, but traffic. And then how was that business, how was the stadium going to collaborate with the community? Because I think that's what the community is interested in, right? It's not that we want to keep things out. We want development in the community, but we want development that is cognizant of the historical and cultural nature of our community. There has been over 6 decades of disinvestment on the East Side, and so we welcome new investment in the community, but we want to make sure that that new investment is cognizant and collaborating with the residents, with the businesses, with the property owners that are currently there, so that they understand that that we want you to be a part of our growth. We want you to be a part of what we are trying to achieve as a community.
I hear you saying that you want that to happen and they want that to happen. But is that happening? I mean, this project now is truly underway. The property has been purchased by the city, I think for $1, these many acres, and, ground is being broken.
Yes.
So are you satisfied with how that is going to be integrated, whether residents are satisfied with how they're interfacing with this stadium?
So we've had some early conversations with the owners of the stadium. Those conversations will continue as we move forward. And so the owners of the stadium, LPT Realty, Nathan, will have all been open to these conversations, and those conversations will continue.
Do you get the sense that there's some flexibility on their part about how, for instance, it might look on the facing side to A. Philip Randolph or the design of it at all?
I think it's way too early to tell that right now.
Okay. We've got a call from Stanley on the north side. Good morning, Stanley. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, everybody. And you are right on point. All your questions are right on point. But our research, the African American Economic Recovery Think Tank, our research show it's about gentrification. They are about to move those residents out of there and bring in new people. Now, I don't know who's running this sham, but it's a sham job. And I have empirical evidence to show That's what it is. A sham job. Thank you.
Thanks, Stanley. Avery, I mean, what are the concerns about a gentrifying neighborhood, people being pushed out by, new businesses coming in that perhaps aren't familiar with the history?
That's a major concern. You hear it a lot. Everywhere you've seen a major development going around, whether it's stadium, Facebook, whatever, you see people being moved out. And I was on the east side when the Jaguars came, got the team in 93, started in 95, and everything south of the Matthews Expressway was eminent domain. Everybody moved. And so with this, like with the soccer stadium, that's also a concern. So initially, the word was there would be no eminent domain, and then things progress, and you find out, we need this space, and then it's like, how are we going to do this without eminent domain? And it's a challenge because we connect, like we have the pulse of the community, so we connect with those who don't have access to the powers to be, like Nathan or people with a martyr. And so when we communicate with them, we tell them your home is safe. You're not being moved, because they saw when it happened. A lot of people have been around the neighborhood probably since the 60s, 50s, some that are on Grant Street particularly. And so, yeah, that's a major concern. But out east is the largest intake African-American community in Florida. And so with that being said, that's something to pride ourselves on. We, that commerce is not any restrictions on it. If something's for sale, anybody can buy it. And so what we try to do, like organizations like Lift Jax and the HECDC, is doing home repair programs. And so people can stay in place. We have organizations like Prosper in Place, which is an initiative, so people don't have to move out. And Project Boots, they're doing building. And so, and people that are moving in the community are also African American, and they're professionals, and so they're going to be people that are be able to afford to stay there, because that's always a concern too. Once the development starts, the values go up, people sell, property taxes go up, people can't afford it, and so those all are concerns. But we're on the front end of it, and the good thing about being last sometimes is you get to see. You get a snapshot and see what happens in other places. And so it gives you an opportunity to investigate and research and see how we can, stave off the gentrification. And so that's what we've been doing.
Nigelle, the community benefits agreement portion of this, major stadium investment that the city's doing includes millions of dollars for the east side. Is that something that Florida Main Street will have access to or be able to use or direct some of those funds?
We hope so. So how that money is being distributed is still in consideration, so that hasn't been finalized yet. But yes, Florida Avenue Main Street hopes that we will be able to apply for funding and use that funding to help revitalize and rebuild the avenue. So we're in line like everybody else. So as we all know, those funds don't even start to become available. The city part doesn't even start to become available until possibly as early as the next fiscal year, which starts in October. And the JAGS money doesn't hit the streets until after the stadium is completed. And both of those are distributed over a period of time. So the city money will come in over a 7-year period, and the JAGS money comes in over a 30-year period. So it's not $115 million on the street day one. The money comes in over time from both sources.
And what metric do you think we should use to judge the success of this initiative, Nigelle, and what should we expect to see in a couple of years that you think will tell us whether it's being helpful?
So the first metric, of course, will be new businesses and new buildings coming to the area. That's going to take some time. That's not going to happen overnight. But what we should also see are new visitors to the area. So we should see an uptick in traffic. The businesses that are currently there, hopefully we'll start to see an uptick in revenues because of the traffic that will come to the area. We should see beautification projects happening. We should see facade projects happening. Some of that's already taken place, even prior to me coming on board. So the businesses have had new signage, new painting. We've got some beautiful new murals in the area. Mm-hmm. We hope that will continue. We also will see, like I said, new streetscapes. We've got Groundworks Jacksonville, who will be bringing the Emerald Trail through the Eastside. So we're hoping to see that come up a Philip Randolph, but we're not sure that's going to happen. But you should start seeing more activity. You should start seeing more beautification, and ultimately you will see new businesses and new buildings being built along the
Well, we
avenue.
look forward to watching it, and we'll hopefully have you back to talk about it as we continue. But Nigelle Kohn, Avery McKnight, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank
you for having us.
All right. And we'll be back in just a minute.
Terrell Hogan Law.
I'm Wayne Hogan. Car accidents happen too often for your family to go unprotected. Uninsured motorist insurance. When you need it, will you have it?
More at TerrellHoganLaw.com. Amelia Island Chamber Music Festival is hosting the world-renowned Dakash Quartet on Tuesday, February 11th in a program featuring Beethoven, Huff, and Haydn. Tickets available at aicmf.org or by calling their box.
To prevent another 2008 financial collapse, big banks must perform annual stress tests. Now they're suing to overhaul stress tests, which they believe are
random, arbitrary, and ultimately bad for the U.S. economy as a whole because they're forcing banks, we think, to hold a lot more capital than is warranted.
But of course, it was a lack of capital that contributed to the '08 crash in the first place. That's on the next On Point.
Today at 11, here on WJCT News 89.9.
You might have noticed, but the places where millions of us get our news and information are giving up on checking the facts. 1A hasn't, and neither has NPR. Our engagement with you helps us tell clearer stories, paint a fuller picture, and ask better questions. That's our business model, because facts matter. Join me, Todd Swillick, along with Jen White, next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. A new anthology recounts the formative racial experiences of 26 Black and white women. Joining me to discuss the project are Trish Lynette, founder of Seeking Insights for Solutions. Good morning, Trish.
Good morning.
Karen Flaherty, contributor to the anthology Where Colors Meet, a Tapestry of Black and White. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
Mary Jennings, anthology contributor. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Ann.
And group member Jody Jones. Welcome.
Welcome.
So, Trish, it was the murder of George Floyd that sparked the creation of this group. What did you hope to accomplish, and how did the group evolve?
Well, 4 women, 2 white, 2 black women, we belonged to the same local organization, came together to see how we could find solutions to the racial divide. What could we do? And one of us, Gina Barclay McLaughlin, who's my co-president of SIS, Seeking Insights for Solutions, suggested that we do interviews cross-racially, as she had done in her university classes. And we did that, the 4 of us. And afterwards, we discussed our findings. We shared more experiences and expanded on the issues. And it was very powerful, listening firsthand to someone explaining life experiences and how the color of our skin impacted our lives. And so it began then.
Did you find in those interviews that you were learning more about the other person or more about your own self?
Both.
Yeah.
Both our own selves. Many of us white women, because we grew as people heard about what we were doing and they joined us and they also did the interviews, we realized that so much of our lives we had been ignorant of. And so it was a great awakening for us to hear firsthand experiences of the black women who we had many similarities, but also many differences. And it's been just our understanding and empathy has grown. And we really believe that this is a way to have solidarity, to cross over, to tear down the barriers.
Yeah. Mary, what was it that brought you to the group, and how has it been for you? I mean, has it been a two-way street? Do you feel like the conversations are helpful to you as much as they are to the people that are asking you questions?
Coming to CIS, I feel that it is an opportunity to learn more about my white sister, more about how she lived and how I lived, considering that I was considered a marginal individual and my white sister was considered a woman of privilege. And so coming into the organization was an opportunity to understand more deeply the issues that provide that racial divide in our society. And so I welcome the opportunity to be able to speak to my white sister about her experiences and to share, because I've not had an opportunity to share the Black experience. It's always been an assumed experience. People think they know how African Americans live or any other culture. They believe that they've read, they've had enough experiences, but they've not had that personal experience with someone. And so it was wonderful coming into CIS and having that opportunity to hear and also to be heard.
And what made you want to participate in this anthology, this collection of writings? How did you decide what to share?
Well, I believe in blowing up the myths. And so in my writing, I looked at a myth that one of my white colleagues had experienced. My white colleague said to me one morning at work, "I want to touch your hair. Do you mind if I touch your hair?" Well, I've never asked anyone, "Can I touch your hair?" I admire someone's hair, but I've never said, "I want to touch your hair." My white colleague felt that she had heard things about my hair, that it was curly, it was kinky, it was rough like steel wool. And she just asked me, she said, "I know you, and I know that you'll be honest with me." So being a part of CIS helps to blow up those myths that people may have about your particular culture. And so for my colleague, I moved close to her, I bent down, I let her run her hands through my hair and have that experience. And she said, "Oh, your hair is a little coarse, but it's not like steel wool." So blowing up the myths, and there are many others that we could probably spend time talking about, but that's what's important about being a part of CIS.
Jody, just briefly, because we are kind of running short on time, what is it that this group has brought you?
I had heard about the group from Mary Jennings. I'm new to the area. I've only been here 8 months. And when I went to the first meeting, I realized that I had found a way to be part of something much bigger than myself and make a difference.
And just briefly, Karen, what is it that has appealed to you most about this group?
Well, I got involved soon after, in September, after George Floyd's death. So it's been almost over 4 years now that I've been involved, and I've taken on the roles that, because I've been so passionate about the activities of CIS and reaching the social justice divide, that I helped to create the video. Then, as Gina and I were talking about the video and all the stories, we really decided to create the book.
We're going to have to leave it there. Trish Lynette, Karen Flaherty, Mary Jennings, and Jody Jones, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And join us tomorrow when we talk to Jacksonville's first Black pediatrician, Dr. Charles McIntosh. I'm Ann Schindler. You've been listening to First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com. The North Florida TPO is dedicated to transportation planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, resilient, and connected region. More information available at northfloridatpo.com.
The Jacksonville Music Experience presents indie pop artist Rawhill, performing live on the WJCT soundstage on Friday, February 21st at 7 p.m. Tickets and more information at jacksmusic.org/events.